Hello, everyone. Dan Tortora here inside of Wake Up Call, and we are, of course, in the Great Lakes Honda City studios. We're happy to be with you in these Great Lakes Honda City studios Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You know how to get a hold of us up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both / WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com, which now features over 1,900 episodes in the audio archive. So make sure you check it out. Of course, you can find us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. You can also go ask Alexa or your Google Home device to play the latest episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or you can actually pick the episode. If you say, hey, Alexa, play Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, episode 1620, she should be able to find that for you as well. So we appreciate everyone that has connected with us. I hope these gentlemen know there will be a test afterward. I'm here with Thomas Christopher and Shane Barrett of the League Winners. You know that I get to spend time Tuesday nights with Thomas Christopher, and you know that Shane and I have gotten to know each other through the League Winners and through connecting with each other. I hope his wife has forgiven me, and I'm happy to be back here with you. I'm happy to be here with you both because I've never had Shane on the show, and I definitely am happy to have Thomas back. So these gentlemen from the League Winners, you can go and check them out weekly, and of course you could follow them on all of the social medias. They're two great and wonderful people to talk with, and they have good spirits, and that's the most important thing to me. So, Thomas Christopher, Shane Barrett, here on Wake Up Call inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios, and Great Lakes Honda City. Find out more at greatlakeshondacity.com. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing good, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for the invite. And my wife, it's not date night, so my wife should forgive you.
Well, I'm asking because of the show that I've done previously. When you left the show, Thomas and I continued to talk, and I said that when you say, good night, honey, I love you, and your wife has her back turned to you, she thinks that you're saying it. She's like, oh, I love you too, babe. When in actuality, if she had rolled around, you were saying it and blowing a kiss to a cardboard cutout of Jon Sumrall. So I hope that maybe you took that down. Maybe it's been replaced with an Alex Golesh that talks back to you at night. But I guess I'll start with that, Shane. Are you okay that you got one of my two coaches that I've gotten to know over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a little miniature figurine of Alex Golesh, and it says, I love you back already. So, yeah, no, I'm super excited. And Golesh was one of the names that I mentioned in my article on the League Winners as someone that I was interested in for the head coaching position for Auburn. His offense, it speaks for itself. He's had a top 25 offense in 2020, 2022, and 2025. The last time Auburn had a top 25 offense was 2014. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely say that Golesh coming into South Florida and doing what he did in 3 years' time, he came into a program that was about a 4-win program. The rivalry they had with UCF in the American at the time had been kind of non-existent, disappeared because South Florida was such a non-factor, and at the bottom of the conference and UCF fighting to be at the top and the upper echelon of the conference, they had fallen completely off the map. And Willie Taggart was the last time that they had done some good things. Alex Golesh came in from Tennessee, and from that Josh Heupel tree, which ironically was connected to UCF, the team on the other side of the rivalry between South Florida and UCF. He comes into South Florida, and they had been waiting for a coach for a long time. He got them to a bowl game every single season, including this season, and got them to a winning record. So took a non-bowl, non-postseason, non-factor team that was under 500, turned them into an above 500 team every single season, and a bowl team, and got them ranked in the college football playoff rankings this year. So of any of the coaches you could have gotten from the American, I think arguably by the numbers, you got the best one.
Yeah, it was between him and Summerall for me the whole time. Like I think the thing that Auburn has needed the most over these last 5 years is we just need somebody who's a football coach. Like if you go into a room and someone says Alex Golesh's name, one of the first things that I want people to think of is, oh, he's a good football coach. And I feel like you got that with Summerall or Golesh. Because last year when South Florida played Alabama, on the broadcast, they were talking about how good of a coach Golesh was and how well he'd done, and he was just in year 2. And I was like, that's a name we need to start looking for going forward. And now he's my head coach, so I'm really pumped.
Yeah, and it's crazy because him and I were just talking about all the fruits of their labor, all the construction that's on campus in Tampa at the University of South Florida, the fact that they're getting an on-campus stadium for the first time ever, they're improving all their facilities. So even though he won't be there to see it finished, without him and his staff and their student athletes, it doesn't get done. So a shout out to what Golesh is doing. Thomas, your thoughts as we bring up the coaches here, and I'm going to bring up all the American coaches and we'll discuss them as we go, but I'd love to get your thoughts on Alex Golesh and your take. I mean, you and I both cover the American. We were both there for Media Day. Your thoughts on Alex Golesh, who is now heading from South Florida to Auburn to take over a Tigers program that is trying to be consistently good and not occasionally great.
Yeah, you know, Alex Golesh is a great leader, a motivational guy. As you alluded to a little bit, he built the USF program kind of from the ground up again, back-to-back 7-6 seasons before, you know, this past year where they had a real shot to get in the American. Now they slipped up a little bit against Navy and Memphis. Those are two good football teams in and of itself. Navy is a very underrated program over there. Brian Newberry's a great head coach. And also we talked about Ryan Silverfield, who also is leaving for an SEC job of his own. So he's, you know, obviously he's not a slouch either. I think it's very good for Auburn fans to see how Golesh was able to come in, develop somebody like Byram Brown, who has, I mean, to be frank, Byram has some wonky quarterback mechanics throwing the ball. He was able to have success there throwing the ball and also being able to create interesting concepts to get the ball out of his hands quickly and be able to utilize him as a runner too. I think his play calling is very effective. For USF offensively, he's an offensive guru. He's you know, one of the brightest offensive minds in college football right now, and I think Auburn really considering. And I know, you know, they were expecting Hugh Freeze to kind of be that same way, an offensive-minded guy who is going to put up a lot of points, going to do a lot of things. We've seen Golesh already be able to do that, and we've seen him to be able to do that against good teams too. The Miami game notwithstanding. So I'm excited for Auburn fans. I know they're excited as well, and I'm very curious to see how he performs in the SEC because he's gonna have a very difficult schedule in front of him.
Yeah, he definitely will. I think that arguably though he has the longest runway when it comes to the coaches from the American to the SEC. I think Jon Sumrall might get a pass in year 1. And then if they're not vying for the college football playoff in year 2, I think Gators fans are going to want to get rid of him if year 2 or 3 does not get to an SEC championship or to an at-large bid in the college football playoff. I think Arkansas, I mean, listen, I guess Arkansas lives by the theme, if you can't beat them, hire them, because they lost 32-31 to Memphis and Ryan Silverfield. Keep in mind, Justin Fuente was the Memphis coach, put them on the map. He goes to Virginia Tech, and outside of Deion Kane and Hunter Renfrow having fantastic hands, he almost wins an ACC title in the one game that was played in Orlando at Camping World Stadium when it was not in Charlotte because North Carolina was more concerned with bathrooms at the time. So in that scenario, that's what it was. That's what it was. So, I mean, we got the email. So, I mean, when in that situation down in Florida, which I was there for that, listen, the fact that we're fighting to try and poop together makes me sad. So, anywho, nobody likes to go to the bathroom in a public restroom unless you're a psychotic maniac. So, anyways, as I digress, I've already got off the rails. It took me 10 minutes, but 10 minutes on the dot. So, when we look at Virginia Tech and how good they were in the first year of Justin Fuente. And obviously he went through a lot of injuries from there, a lot of injuries to their quarterback that I don't blame him for. And then you look at Mike Norvell. And Mike Norvell, let's be real, in a couple seasons at Florida State, he's in the college football playoff, except for the fact that the college football playoff thought that you could punish an undefeated conference champion because their quarterback went down. Keep in mind, they didn't do that to Georgia last year when Carson Beck went down. They also didn't do it to Alabama when Alabama changed their quarterbacks from Jalen to Tua, just to let people know and remind you all of that. So and I have people, I'd love to know how you guys feel about the fact that I've been James Gunned. And what I mean by that is I've had people go back and find posts I put up years ago about Mike Norvell being a good hire. And now Florida State fans want me to explain myself. They told me that I lied to them. Thomas, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on people finding years old years old messages that I posted here, or anybody posted, and want me to explain why Mike Norvell's not a good coach or a good recruiter, which I disagree with both. Also, 2 years ago, he was going to the college football playoff, if not for the committee making a dangerous precedent. I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I'll start with the first part. Isn't that just the fun life of being a reporter and covering college football, any sport, to be honest? I mean, I still have certain Miami fans who come at me. I have Louisville fans who are, snuck up some stuff on me when I didn't say disparaging things about Miller Moss, but I thought that he was kind of holding back the Chris Bell Brown tandem there, that great running backs and wide receiver tandem that they had there. So I understand that firsthand. Best thing you try to do is just brush it off, man. That's always my best advice.
I still like Mike Norvell. I'm not going to stop liking him.
As far as Norvell, I think he's. I mean, we saw him at the ACC kickoff this July. He's a guy that makes you want to run through a wall, man. He really is. When he gets to talking, he's a very motivational guy. He's a great recruiter. I really think that the disservice that happened to him in that Florida State team, broke might be the wrong word, but I think it definitely affected him. And he hasn't necessarily, not even just him, the program hasn't necessarily been able to recover. They have the pieces. They should ideally be able to perform better. I think the Malzone addition was interesting because there was reports in the spring that those two guys were kind of conflicting a bit. They started off hot. Obviously, they cooled down a lot as the season went on. So I think Norvell's a very good coach. Sometimes maybe your time is up, but I still have faith in the guy. Whether it's at Florida State, I'm not sure, but yeah. I know Norvell, the person and the coach, and I do think he's a good guy, motivational leader, and at the end of the day, I do believe he is a good coach.
Well, yeah, and what I would say about Mike Norvell, again, it's not just one. And a couple of years ago, when I wrote in 2023, you're a college football playoff team. The committee keeps you out. And what people don't understand, because they don't go below surface level, it's not Florida State's fault they didn't make it. It's not Florida State's fault Jordan Travis got hurt. And guys can go to the NFL, guys can go in the transfer portal because of not making the college football playoff. So that can hurt you years down the road. And DJ, and then literally we know this, if you make the wrong move at quarterback for either starter or backup, that can hurt you. DJU, that can hurt you not having anybody behind Steve Angeli at Syracuse. And so Shane's bringing up Auburn. You mentioned Gus Malzahn, which I'm going to love to hear Shane's thoughts because, that's a former Auburn coach. But before we go there, I want to know what Shane thinks about sharing bathroom. I'm kidding. So, Shane, your take on the world that we live in. And I'd love to get your take on Florida State because it seems like what happened to them by the door slammed in their face in a dangerous precedent with the college football playoff that they didn't do with Georgia last year to follow. It seems like that 2023 smack in the face that they didn't do to Georgia in 2024 has kind of ripple effect here and kind of been a snowball for Florida State. However, They're one of 2 teams that beat Alabama in the regular season. So would love to get your take since you don't like Alabama. So your thoughts on Florida State, Gus Malzahn, and if we have time, public restrooms.
That's such a broad question. I don't know where to start. The world as we see it is college football. I'm probably one of very few people that have this opinion. I think the committee got it right with Florida State back in 2023, and here's why.
I'm dropping the feed. Cut them off.
Okay, Jordan Travis goes down, right? And I think that was before their last regular season game. And then the backup comes in the final regular season game. And then he gets hurt. And then they go to the conference championship game. And their third string quarterback comes in.
Did he win?
He did, but it looked like crap. And so I think
you deserve the right to that butt whooping, though, don't you?
I guess so, but I understand why they did what they did, because I feel like they were trying to, I guess, make it more entertaining. And so that's where I'm like, I understand why they did it, because you're on QB3 at this point, and they had other significant injuries too, if I remember correctly, to where they were not going to be the same team. Yes, they won. I don't even remember who they beat in the conference championship. But again, it's the ACC. Like, we've kind of talked about how the group of 5 is almost as good as, if not better than, or getting to the point of being better than the ACC, right?
I think, well, I tell people this all the time. If the American's not better than the Big 12, why'd you take their top 3 teams at the time?
Yeah, well, and I've seen Thomas's tweet resurface at least twice in the last week about how if the group of 5 isn't good, then why are all of their top coaches going to the SEC and the Big Ten and whatnot?
Him and I have been I've been saying it for years. He's been saying it for years. See, those are the good resurfacing tweets. Keep them coming. Keep responding to those tweets. I love those.
But look, like, I'm wearing an Auburn shirt. We just hired a group of 5 coach. Like, I'm not going to crap on them. Like, good coaches, good players come from those conferences. But I think with what the committee did with Florida State, and then again, if we're comparing apples to apples, I think when Gunnar Stockton came in for Carson Beck, he looked way better than Florida State's backup and then ultimately Florida State's third string. And so that's why I think, and then the Alabama thing, like, oh God, you threw me a curveball on that one. I'm not going to lie. But it's with Tua and Jalen. But I think with Gunnar Stockton, like, the level of play didn't seem to drop off as much as it did when it went. I don't even remember who Florida State's third string quarterback was in 2023, but it was like the play was bad. Yeah. And so that at least is my justification for that specific part of your question.
So we look to the American, and a point that Thomas and I have brought up separate from each other but paralleled each other, which is, if this conference isn't good, why do you steal the players? Why do you steal the coaches? And in certain instances, you steal the entire institution. So Houston used to be in the American. UCF used to be in the American. Cincinnati used to be in the American. There was a play from allegedly the Pac-12 to go after Memphis, to go after Tulane. So we know that there was a group of schools within the American that prior to this season decided they're staying in the American Conference. And now we're seeing Eric Morris of North Texas go to Oklahoma State of the Big 12. We're seeing Jon Sumrall go to Florida from Tulane. We're seeing Ryan Silverfield go to Arkansas from Memphis, who Memphis beat this season. And we're seeing Alex Golesh, who we mentioned, go from South Florida to Auburn. Of the 4, and I'll keep with you, Shane, here, I want you to be unbiased. I know Auburn is your team. But of the 4 hires, what's your favorite one? Like, which one do you think is going to pay off the most? Be real. Which one do you think is going to pay? If you think it's Auburn, I just want you to give me factual evidence besides the fact that you have a life-size, huggable Alex Golesh pillow now. So I want to know the one that you think will have the biggest payoff, and I also want to know which one you think is going to be the one that doesn't work. Like the one that you would not have, the one that you think of the 4 is probably going to be the first to have a divorce, so to speak.
Okay.
Besides you and your wife for hugging that Alex Golesh pillow.
Um, no, if she divorces me, it's because she hears what I say on this show. Um, I do. I'm going to answer who I think is going to be broken up with first because I want to remove bias if I can, but I don't think I can. I honestly think both Sumrall and Silverfield do not make sense. I went and dug. I was like,
Okay.
why are these the two hires? If they flipped, they would be perfect. Like I would pick Sumrall. Like if somehow Sumrall went to Arkansas, I would love it. Because if you look at where Arkansas and Florida both are, Florida's defense was decent. They were ranked slightly, I think, in points per game, they gave up like 22 or 24, and Memphis gave up like 22.8, 22.7. And Tulane was around 22.8, 22.7 as well. So the drop off for Florida getting Sumrall as far as defense goes didn't make a ton of sense to me. And then same thing with Arkansas. Arkansas's offense was not the problem. Their defense being top 15 or bottom 15 in points per game allowed makes me think you would go hire a defensive coach and not an offensive coach to at least find some semblance of balance. And to kind of counterpoint that, like Auburn hiring Golesh, their problem was offense, and you have DJ Durkin on staff. So, like, that fit to me makes more sense than Sumrall or Silverfield. So, to ultimately answer the question, I think Silverfield's probably going to be the one that doesn't make it. He may have a longer leash than Sumrall. And Sumrall, if you have seen any of the fan reaction to Sumrall at Florida, I wouldn't be shocked if it was him. But I'm going to put my bet on Silverfield just because – their defense has to get astronomically better, and I don't know if he can do that and maintain the offense. And it's Arkansas.
I think if Jesus Christ was hired to the Florida Gators, they would hate that too. I think they hate every coaching hire until they don't. Also, should have never fired Dan Mullen, who is one step out of the college football playoff. So my question to you, Shane, what's the best one? What's the best hire of the four that came from the American? And you can answer Auburn. I just want you to give me factual evidence. I want you to give me factual evidence more than you asking me for Alex Golesh's number off air or any of these other things.
I haven't gotten there yet. I did almost ask you for Sumrall when we recorded last week.
Okay. I love it.
I'm going to say it is Golesh at Auburn.
Okay. Why?
And great question. Because Auburn has the talent on both sides of the ball.
Okay.
Defensive, and I would love to keep Durkin. I have no idea where that's trending towards right now. I was trying to do some research. It almost looks like he might end up at Mississippi State. But even if he doesn't, the talent on that side of the ball is astronomical. There's also really good talent on the offensive side of the ball that's been underutilized under Hugh Freeze. So even if Auburn because Auburn's been top 30 in defense for the past 2 seasons and hasn't had the offense to match it. If we see a little bit of a drop-off in defense, but a giant leap in offense, then there's no reason. You can ask Thomas. I've predicted this team to go 9-3 for the last 2 seasons. If we actually had the offense, it could have freaking happened. And so I think Golesh gives Auburn the best chance and has the most resources to get there faster. I think Morris at Oklahoma State will be a good hire. But they were 1-10 or 1-11. I don't know if they won last week. He's digging them up out of the basement, and there's probably a little extra mud on top to try and get out of there. Yeah. So he's got a further path to go to, whereas Golesh is coming in and you've got the pieces. You just got to plug and play them right.
Yeah, and I think, Eric Morris is literally going from one extreme to the other. He's going from 11-1 to 1-11. Now, keep in mind, he came to the American when North Texas came to the American. He got hired, and North Texas made the move. So he's been with them all 3 seasons there, but not before. He went from 5-7 to 6-6 to 11-1. He went from not being a factor in the American for 2 years to now being one of the teams playing for the title game. So there's a lot to be said about his body of work, but he goes to an Oklahoma State team where he may have a longer leash. I think Golesh has a longer leash, and I think Morris has a longer leash than we're going to see with Jon Sumrall at Florida and Ryan Silverfield at Arkansas. I think within the last couple of years, before Memphis started to get going, keep in mind, Fuente got Memphis going. Mike Norvell kept them going. And then Silverfield did not continue that immediately. It was like good. It was like good, getting better. And then it's like staying good, dropped. And then recently he brought them back up. There was a time where Memphis may have parted ways with Silverfield. Now he's the head coach of Arkansas. So you go from a coach that maybe wasn't going to be the head coach at Memphis anymore, in my opinion, and then he stays, and now he's going to Arkansas. But you kind of wonder, like, he brought Memphis back, but not back. And now he's got a more high-profile job in a conference that only gives you 3 years. Chad Morris knows, coming from SMU, he got SMU on the map, then he left. And then what happened? He had 3 years at Arkansas, and he was let go. So, Thomas, I'm going to ask you the same. What do you think is the best hire of the four? Which one do you think is the one that's not going to work out first? This is not me wishing a firing of anybody. I do want to be clear about this. This is looking at the four hires. Which one is going to last the longest? Which one do you think may not? And then I'm going to ask another side to this, which is, are you surprised that Bobby Petrino was not on the inside, the interim, not elevated to head coach again, and that they went from totally outside? So the Bobby Petrino factor at Arkansas, and then the hire that you think is going to work the longest versus the one that you think has the shortest runway.
I'll start with the Petrino one because it kind of ties into what one of my eventual answers is going to be. Okay. I don't know if surprised is maybe the right word. Obviously, he had success there. I just don't know if the program wants to rehash something that, times change. There's always a time to move on. He's grateful in what he does with the program. He's just been a great guy at the program in and of itself. Petrino, he embodies what it is, to kind of be a hog there. And I think him stepping up and just being the interim in and of itself was important. I think it was a very admirable thing for him to do. I was surprised he probably didn't get a fair shot at, an interview again, but I think they kind of potentially knew what they had with him already. I am surprised that they went after Silverfield, and I think that's going to be the answer to the first question. I think he's going to be the one that doesn't necessarily work out. Good Memphis team took over a good, Memphis program and never really hit the top of that arc the way that, Jon Sumrall hasn't really turned the program around to the extent that you've seen with like an Alex Golesh or Eric Morris too. That one surprises me a little bit. I think that the recruiting is going to be a factor that he may not necessarily have taken into account. Maybe he has, but when the AD has basically stated that the reason why the previous coach failed was because of a lack of NIL and money going into the football program, I think you have to think really long and hard about what that kind of job you're taking, especially when it goes into the SEC. It's not a Big 12 job or an ACC job. Not that they're way down, but the competition level in the SEC, it is different. There are a lot of powerhouse teams, and there's a lot of powerhouse recruiting that goes into those areas in the South. And are recruits going to want to play for a guy who hasn't necessarily won anything as the main guy? He did a good job at Memphis, but I think he could have done better with the people that he had, to be honest with you. And Arkansas is a tough place to win at. Because it's in the SEC and because of those, the lack of recruiting, the lack of NIL that they're going to have, as opposed to the other programs just in the conference. That doesn't even speak about the other good programs in the surrounding area. So I think, and it's not that I'm, I don't dislike Silverfield. I want to get that out of the way too, but I am not sold on him being the guy. And for who I think is the best, I honestly think it could potentially be Eric Morris. He goes to a place where recruiting hotbed, he's staying in basically the same area. Moves up to a Big 12, which is, I don't want to say it's a weak conference because, Tech has looked good, BYU has looked good, Utah has looked okay. Cincinnati, Houston have had spurts too. Kansas, Jalen Daniels, when he was there, they looked all right. This year, a little down here, but hotbed and recruiting area, that Texas area it's ginormous. I got family who boosters at the Oklahoma State for Oklahoma State. I know they want to put a lot into the program for Eric Morris, and plus we have to assume that Caleb Hawkins, Wyatt Young, Drew Mestamaker all probably go with Eric Morris, and if that's the case, you have a sophomore quarterback who just broke records in the American. You have a running back who looks incredible, and you have a wide receiver that plays gutsy football. He's a Big 12 wide receiver. And Wyatt Young, I think he probably has a long leash as well, which will likely help him in that regard. I think he'll be able to build time in there. The only thing that I think is difficult, and this goes with Jon Sumrall too, is you have both of them in this conference championship now for the American, and I think that stops them a little bit from a recruiting aspect and from a just getting your feet in and going. I know at the American, Sumrall was actually in Florida already, and he said he was flying back to Baton Rouge. I think that's really hard to juggle the right way, especially if, like Jon says, he's not trying to steal recruiting classes. Don't know if Eric feels the same way. If that's their feeling, it just becomes a little bit harder, but I do think Eric Morris is a tremendous fit. I love Golesh at Auburn as well too.
Yeah, and I would say, in response to this, I think that Golesh is a good fit. I think it makes sense. I think he's going to have, honestly, I can see him there 5 or 6 years, and then let's see what happens from there. I think in the case of Ryan Silverfield, I'm just concerned about it. Arkansas doesn't seem to give a lot of time to anybody, and I don't know if they're going to give the amount of time that necessarily Ryan Silverfield's going to need to be able to recruit at a high level consistently there. I think Jon Sumrall is a victim of the fact that it's the same thing. I see it in Florida, and I see it with Florida State. Their fan bases are like, you're a new head coach, you suck, I hate you. Prove me wrong. You're guilty until proven innocent. And you can win games. And if you win 9 or 10 games, I still hate you. You have to win an SEC title. And if you win an SEC title or an ACC title, I still hate you until you go to the college football playoff. So I feel like Florida State fans for many, many, many years, the feeling's just been, if you don't go to the championship game, you suck. And I feel like Florida Gator fans are the same way. It's like, win me a championship or get fired. And so I think Jon Sumrall coming in, he's already behind the 8 ball because the fans want you to hire like Bill Cowher or, like someone's been around for, like they want Jimmy Johnson to come out of, like they want this massive name, right? But I respect all of these coaches. Ryan Silverfield, like I said, I think left for dead, resurrected his career. I think Jon Sumrall, the question was, I was told when Willie Fritz came to Tulane, I forget who said it to me, but we were in Rhode Island when the American used to be there. And this guy came up to me, he goes, you see that guy over there? And he pointed to Willie Fritz. He goes, that man wins wherever he goes. He goes, go ahead, look it up. He wins everywhere he goes, and he's going to win here. And it took a bunch of years, and he did it. And then he left for Houston, and the question was, well, what's Jon Sumrall going to do? Like how? And I remember sitting next to Jon Sumrall in Arlington, Texas a couple years ago, and then again in Charlotte, North Carolina this year. When I sat with him last year, I'm thinking in my head like, man, I really hope they go easy on this guy because now he's got to come in and try and continue this Tulane success, and he has. They've gone to, 4 straight American championship games. So you see the success that they've done with Willie Fritz to Jon Sumrall. Then I look at Alex Golesh. You took a team that was a non-factor at the bottom of the American, and you brought them up to be in the college football playoff rankings, 3 winning seasons after I think they had 4 straight losing seasons. And then you look at Eric Morris, who North Texas was a non-factor coming to the American. People were not talking about them. Remember, when all those 6 teams came from Conference USA to the American, the media by and large chose UTSA to win the American in their first year there. There was no conversation about the Mean Green. It was like a laughable, it was like, oh, it's cute that you guys are here. That's all that was. And then Eric Morris did what he did. So I commend all 4 of these coaches for the work that they've done to get to where they've gotten to. And I hope that they're all successful. I hope they all get paid. I hope their families are all happy in new surroundings. And I hope that they have nothing but a fantastic road ahead, because I never wish bad on anybody. If somebody hates my guts, I still pray for you. So looking at Eric Morris and Jon Sumrall in this championship game in the American, my question to you both, and I'll start with you, Shane, what are your thoughts on the fact that this other guy that I'm going to put up on the screen here, Lane Kiffin, he makes his decision, which I don't understand. Hey, I brought Ole Miss out of the basement. We could win a national championship. I'm going to go try and bring this other team out of the basement. Is he just building up a resume of, I'm going to be the coach that brings everybody out of the basement to the top, but I'm not going to stay to see it through? I mean, there's the conversation that Ole Miss allegedly told him, if you leave, you can't coach. If you leave, you can't be here for these guys. You can't be with them in the college football playoff. Now, if it's a Lane Kiffin thing, then my response is, that's terrible character. If this is on the school of Ole Miss, then this is, you must really hate your own institution. So, but then I look at Lane Kiffin and I say, you go from the SEC to the SEC. And if you know Lane's track record, it's always to get back into the SEC. And once he's in the SEC, to bounce around it. But it's like he can never sit in one place long enough. I feel like he was building something at Ole Miss. He leaves the building of something that's not completely done to go build something else. So I guess my question to you, Shane, is he the Lego builder, but does he never put the last Lego on top? And what are your thoughts about the situation of they should be an at-large team in the college football playoff, but now they don't have their coach. And now do they get the Jordan Travis FSU treatment? And does the committee say to them, you don't have your coach 99.9% of the time, those teams don't win bowl games. If he's taking a bunch of y'all in the portal and you guys are going to check out and he's going to take his staff, or at least part of his staff, does Ole Miss get punished at 11-1 and not playing for an SEC title? So my 2-part question is your thoughts on the Lane train that stopped seemingly early, and then what happens to Ole Miss?
So it sounds like to me like Lane has the opposite of PE, and that's a problem for Lane at this point. So I think Lane, I have no idea what he's doing. Like, the facilities and whatever and resources are better at LSU. It's a better job than Ole Miss. But to your point, how do you not finish the job before making the decision? It's the best, like you said, the best season in Ole Miss history. And you don't want to finish that and be the guy that won them an SEC championship, got them in the college football playoff, and had them contending for the national championship. I don't get that. I think from what I have heard and read is that Ole Miss was like, you're not coaching, and if you leave, and makes perfect sense to me. And here's why I think it's different. And I talked to my wife about this last night, and she didn't care. So maybe you guys will. The difference to me is,
I feel like I saw her walk in the background, and I wanted so badly to just see, because I know it's fuzzy in your background. Yeah. I just wanted to see the fuzzy kind of person in the stick figure that walked back there just have a big time reaction, or just like photobomb you a little bit. But that was probably one of the greatest lines, not to interrupt you, is Shane saying, I talked to my wife actually about this last night and she didn't care. So hopefully you guys will. Go ahead.
So I think the difference with Lane leaving Ole Miss and going to LSU and Ole Miss not letting him coach in the playoff is different from Morris and or Jon Sumrall still being able to coach in their conference championship game and then if they get their playoff run, is Lane is staying within the conference. He's going essentially to a rival, whereas Sumrall and Morris are both leaving a G5 school to go to an SEC school.
Yeah.
And so, and I think I said this last week to you guys on Thomas's show. What's 3 days going to do when we were talking about Sumrall for Auburn? What's 3 days going to do if you hire him on December 1st or November 30th with National Signing Day being Wednesday, and then having to go coach a playoff game? Whereas you've got, especially if he was going to Auburn at that point, like, you've got guys in place that can do the recruiting part for you until you get to Auburn. Same with, I assume, Florida and LSU, because they both have the resources to do so.
Yeah.
Where they can worry about National Signing Day for Florida and LSU. You can go coach a playoff game. You can get that experience at a lesser school, and then you're coming to Florida or coming to LSU, not LSU, Oklahoma State, with playoff experience. And so that's kind of my thought on, like, why Sumrall and Morris should be allowed to coach, or being allowed to coach, versus Kiffin not being allowed to it. And then as far, like, I don't know what Kiffin's doing, man. Like, there was that whole documentary. There's the stuff on Twitter where he's posting, like, inspirational quotes or devotionals that he's reading. And I hate it. He talked about, like, I need to go pray about it. And, like, bro, like, you just made Christians everywhere, I'm assuming that's what he was praying to, look horrible, because you just made the most selfish decision you possibly could. It had nothing to do with God. And you left all of those kids at Ole Miss and any of the staffers that stay out to dry so you could go to LSU.
Well, yeah, and I mean, go ahead. What were you going to say?
And I was just going to say, and you still have to bring LSU from a place that Ole Miss was maybe 2 years ago to the place that you are with Ole Miss. Like, you're trying to get to the same spot, but you're already there. Why?
Yeah. It's like he wants to build the car, but he doesn't ever want to put the engine in the car. It's like he's going to build everything with the car, but he's not going to put the last component in, and he's not going to try it. It's like he's constantly elevating programs, but then he's leaving before it gets finished. And so I want to look at a quote that he said. This came from Lane Kiffin. He said, quote, "I was hoping to complete a historic 6-season run with this year's team by leading Ole Miss through the playoffs, capitalizing on the team's incredible success and their commitment to finish strong," adding that he would, quote, that he would maintain, quote, "guardrails in place to protect the program in any areas of concern," end quote. He said Ole Miss Athletic Director Keith Carter denied his request, quote, "despite the team also asking him to allow me to keep coaching them so they could better maintain their high level of performance. Unfortunately, that means Friday's Egg Bowl was my last game coaching the Rebels," end quote. So again, we're not in the room. So Lane's saying, hey, they told me I had to go. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. But the reality of it all is this begs a bigger question. And Thomas, I'll go to you for this. The question of the calendar. The question of jumping in the transfer portal before bowl season, before the college football playoff, for people having conversations, for coaches having to make decisions before the bowl season, before the college football playoff, and having National Signing Day before the bowl season, before the championship games in the conference, before the college football playoff, before we even know who wins each individual conference championship. What is going on in a world where I'm talking with Jon Sumrall, and I'm on a call that you were on as well with Eric Morris and Jon Sumrall of North Texas and Tulane that they're representing at the time, but they're talking about the fact that Jon Sumrall spoke on, I'm on a Zoom call with Tulane players telling them why they should stay. I'm on a Zoom call after that with Florida players telling them why they should come and play for me, even though there's a coaching change. Plus, I'm trying to get ready for a championship game in the same week. What are we doing that coaches have to make decisions before their season's over. They have to say they're leaving, but then are they still going to coach? And then a school's deciding, or a coach is deciding, are you going to be able to finish off the season, or are you going to have to go here early? And then what are you doing with this recruiting school situation? What are you doing with your former school, your school you're at now? What are the kids going to do? Are they going to play in the... Why is all of this happening now? And we're not doing end of regular season, conference championship, signing day, bowl season, college football playoff, and after all that's done, a coach makes a decision. Because if Florida came to me, or LSU came to me, or whoever came to me, and I'm Lane Kiffin, I'd say go kick rocks until I'm done with this thing. Because guess what? You can try to strong arm me, but I know you want me. And I'm not trying to be ego if I'm Lane Kiffin. I'm just saying, you can't wait a couple weeks for me. You can't wait for me. Well, doesn't it say something about me if I want to coach my team to the middle of January to try win a national championship? Doesn't that tell the people that you want me to bring into this school that now I'm coming to, that I actually see things through and I keep my word? Like, what is going on with the calendar, Thomas, that we have to have signing day before conference championships, and there's players and coaches moving before the postseason, so we could have a college football playoff with all these guys sitting out, these coaches are gone. We could be in a situation with SMU and Penn State last year where their backup quarterbacks were in the portal, so they're physically on the field, but they can't play.
Yeah, the college football schedule is very insane, and I think I'll preface that with saying how important it is for universities itself, because a lot of the recruiting and scouting guys through the universities don't necessarily move too much, even despite recruiting change. Actually, this is actually a point I wanted to bring up earlier, and I forgot, because Auburn actually lost Kenyatta Watson. He's now at Boston College, and I think that's actually going to be, yeah, Shane's doing the tier. I think that's actually a huge loss for Auburn. So I think that's important for universities in and of itself, to have a well-developed recruiting system that's organic and not based on who the coach is. Obviously, coaches will bring in their own people if they want to, but I think having that foundation is important, as Coach Jon Sumrall said in that meeting. Like, when he goes to Florida, and he's, and when he came to Tulane and he goes to all these other places, he looks at the coaching staff first, who can work with his style, and he tries not to touch pieces if he doesn't have to. I think that's important, and I think that as far as universities go, I think that's important for a university in and of itself as a standalone, to have that type of foundation set to make these type of situations easier when you have the National Signing Day clunked together with a potential, conference championship run, and then recruiting run, and then the transfer portal soon after that. Meanwhile, these guys are trying to coach a team that they're not going to be at for this upcoming season. And it puts everybody in it kind of shoehorns everybody into a really odd predicament where you're asking people to do some of the impossible. Yeah. Especially, and I feel bad. I feel horrible, I mean, obviously it's great stuff for, the 4 American coaches to up and go to the, autonomous leagues, but I feel pretty bad for what happens to the Tulane, to the Memphis, to the USF, to North Texas specifically after this, because now those schools are without an answer at a head coaching spot. They're already at a disadvantage, so to speak, being in the group of 5 as opposed to a power conference. And some of those schools don't necessarily have the best fallback option in terms of their recruiting staff. I mean, Florida Atlantic's a good example. When Tom Herman left, Coach Love went to UCF, and we saw a lot of players that were originally committed to Florida Atlantic, and even players on the team leave with him to go to UCF. So that interchangeability is it's very unique to college football. Yeah. And I think we hear the coaches talk about the schedule being vastly different from the NFL. And I think for Lane Kiffin's situation specifically, right, I think it's a little bit different as opposed to the 4 American coaches, because he's like as Shane alluded to, he's just going from the SEC to the SEC, and he's also going to another team that, they're not really, they're rivals. They're not. It's not like it's going from a North Texas to an Oklahoma State or a USF to an Auburn. So I think that definitely plays a role in the amount of disdain that Kiffin is facing, and fans have a right to feel the way they do. I think the university has a right to not want him to coach, considering how that drama unfolded. It's just such a sloppy situation, and I hope that there's a difference in the calendar soon, but I don't think there can be, given the way that the football schedule is. So that just brings back to my original point, is the importance of having the universities itself having established recruiting departments and football operations.
I think if you talk to a coach that is still coaching and their season's still going on, regular or postseason, tampering, and that school should be fined immediately or lose scholarships. And then maybe we can stop this crap. Jon Sumrall, who I am a big fan of, was wearing an orange tie, sitting in, you could tell they probably put him in some random room that's not being utilized right now. There was nothing behind him but an empty bookshelf. And he's on campus at the University of Florida getting ready to speak and give his opening press conference while he's on a Zoom call with the media promoting Tulane in the American Championship. Something is wrong with that, and it's not Jon's fault. So, and not everybody's going to do what Jon did. Not everybody's going to get on a Zoom call, say, come to Tulane, get on a Zoom call, say, stay, and please keep, come to Florida, give me a chance. They're going to go, where am I going? I don't care about this place. Leave it on fire. What does it matter? Not everyone's going to treat these things the same way. And in the case of Lane Kiffin, to have this season, if he's coaching and they're 11-1 and he's still here, coaching through like Eric Morris is, coaching through like Jon Sumrall is, they're an at-large team in the college football playoff. But here's the question that I bring to you, gentlemen. Does the committee punish Ole Miss? And do they say, you know what? Notre Dame's got 2 losses. You got 1. But they got their coach still. Do they look at Texas and say, Texas has 3 losses, but they beat 3 teams in the top 12. Ole Miss, you played one of the weakest SEC schedules. You're both in the SEC, and you and Texas both lost to Georgia, but Texas beat Vanderbilt, and Texas beat Texas A&M, their only loss of the season, and Texas also beat Oklahoma, who's going to get in. So do they look to Ole Miss and say, we like Texas more than you? We like Oklahoma more than you. We like Notre Dame more than you. We like Miami more than you. Is this going to be a factor in factoring in Ole Miss, Thomas?
Personally, I would think so. I have nothing against Pete Golding. I wish him the best taking over for Ole Miss. But when Lane Kiffin is bringing Charlie Weiss and a number of the offensive staff with him and kind of gutting that entire staff, I don't know how they can properly prepare for a college football playoff game. And it's not, even if it was a championship game, like this is where it's important. It's too important to have something not at the level that you want to see. And I think, as Shane alluded to with FSU and, going to quarterback number 3, that played a role in why Florida State didn't get in. I can see that side of things as well. And Ole Miss not having their head coach, not having that offensive staff, having players divided in and of itself about how things went down. Will it motivate some of the guys in the locker room and some of the coaching staff? Absolutely. But they would be playing with a hand tied behind their back. I don't think, no matter how you scratch it, I think it's unfair to the players involved because they don't deserve anything that happens. And if it goes just play on the field, they do deserve to be there. But from an entertainment perspective and from, the people who make the decisions just based on how they've made decisions in the past, I think Ole Miss might find themselves on the outside looking in.
I understand your point. Point well taken. Shane, your thoughts. Does the committee, Jordan Travis, this Ole Miss team? Do they look at the Rebels and say, when teams play in bowl games and they don't have their head coach, they don't look like themselves. When they gut the staff, they don't look like themselves. Remember, Syracuse got blown out by South Florida after firing Dino, and Dino's gone, and a bunch of the staff members are gone, and there's players that aren't playing in the game due to injury, or maybe guys want to go in the portal. They want to protect themselves. So is Ole Miss going to be on the wrong side of this? Did the institution of Ole Miss, if they did say to Lane, if you choose anybody but us, good riddance, does their personal attack on Lane backfire by knocking them out of one of the 12 lanes in this college football playoff?
I see what you did there with 12 lanes there.
Thank you.
Before I answer that question, I'm going to circle back to the calendar. Move National Signing Day back to February where it belongs. And 2, congratulations to Kenyatta Watson. He's getting a promotion to general manager, and he's going to his alma mater. So I'm really happy for him, even though it sucks. Now, to answer your question, for consistency's sake, yes, Ole Miss should be punished with Lane and half the offensive staff leaving, because it's not the same football team. Just like I said with my argument with Florida State back in 2023, it's not the same football team. Even if players are going to be there, but some of those players are going to hit the transfer portal and follow Lane. Some of them are going to hit the transfer portal and go elsewhere. And like you mentioned, Dan, they're going to be checked out. And like with SMU, and I can't remember the other team that you mentioned, but they may have backups that are on the field physically that cannot play. Yeah. That's going to be a completely different football team than what we've seen Ole Miss be all year. And so for consistency's sake, I absolutely think they should be punished, because we don't know what the offense is actually going to look like without one of the best offensive play callers in the country calling the offense. Mm-hmm. And any of his prodigies that are gone are probably going to be high up there, would have the potential to call plays and keep some of that consistency within the program. They're gone too. So who's calling plays for Ole Miss on offense is a very important question to ask. And we don't have any way to see. And I think that's another difference, is like with Florida State, we saw them in 2 or 3 games after Jordan Travis went down and the level of play went down. We have no freaking way of seeing what's going to happen with Ole Miss. Yeah. And that's a problem, in my opinion, and they've kind of screwed themselves. Like, you can't go play in the SEC championship game, so we don't get to see what this team looks like. And like you said, they had one of the easier SEC schedules. They lost their biggest game of the year to Georgia, and that was with Lane. Yeah. So without it, I think they should and probably will be punished.
Well, and you look at how good Memphis was a few years back in the 2019 season, and they played in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic outside when it was the 4 teams in the college football playoff and not 12, and there was rotating in and out. And the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic was either a semifinal game or a New Year's Six Bowl. In the year that it was a New Year's Six Bowl, Memphis loses Mike Norvell after winning the American Championship against Cincinnati, and they go to play Penn State, and they lose that game 53-39. They score almost 40 points, but what would it have been like if Mike Norvell was there? Again, people don't understand this. You lose a guy in the locker room, no matter how many guys you got in there. If it's a guy that can bring it together or make it fall apart, the locker room is one of the biggest factors that people don't talk about. And if you lose your head man, right? Why did LSU want to hire Lane Kiffin? Because of what he did at Ole Miss. So if you're looking at that and giving him credit for that, him and his staff, and they're coming to you, if you're going to give them the credit for getting them there, then who's going to get them there when they're not there? I mean, you're literally stating an obvious fact. So let's play college football playoff scenarios. And this is where I get to draw on the board. So I'm going to start with Thomas here, and we get to have some fun. Thomas, you're going to tell me the conference champion of the American, of the Sun Belt, of the Big 10, the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC. And from what you tell me, we're going to play a game for the people watching all over the world. So we'll start with the SEC, and you're going to tell me who's going to win the SEC between Alabama and Georgia for this scenario, and then we'll go from here.
Do I have to give a reasoning, or can I just
You could just
pick?
you could just tell me. We're going to pick for argument's sake.
Okay.
Because then Shane's going to do it, and then we're going to circle back to the fact that Shane didn't answer the bathroom question. Go ahead.
Man, that's a tough one, man. Maybe against perhaps my better judgment, I'm gonna see a nice little bounce back. Ty Simpson is gonna look good, and we'll see Alabama come out on top.
Okay, so you got Alabama coming out on top of this, and so I'll go ahead and add Alabama here to our board. In the ACC between Virginia and Duke, what do you got?
Oh man, Duke is 1-9 historically in the last 10 against Virginia. I really appreciate the job that the Cavaliers have done this season. Duke, I don't think should have been in there for chaos sake. I would love to see Duke win because it would be chaotic for the playoffs, but I think Virginia is going to win that game.
Okay, so you got Virginia winning it. Once again, no matter how many times that Thomas and I break down the tiebreakers, it doesn't make sense that Georgia Tech had the same record in the conference 6-2 that Duke had, and Duke is in. But whatever, that's the case. So we got Virginia in your scenario. Okay, so we got Virginia in the ACC. In the Big Ten, between undefeated Ohio State that has one quad one win, Texas. Keep in mind, folks, the more that you crap on Texas, the more you're crapping on Ohio State's season. Also, keep in mind the fact that Michigan was put to number 15 in the polls, so it would look like a good win when it wasn't, because Michigan barely beat Purdue, who did not win a game in the Big Ten and won 2 games this season. Also, they barely beat Northwestern, who didn't finish with a winning record inside of the Big Ten, but I digress. So you have Ohio State there. You have Indiana, who has more quality wins than Ohio State does. Indiana has a win over Oregon, that's a quad 1, and a win over Iowa, which is a quad 2. If anybody talks to me about the Illinois win, I'm going to do the nicest thing I can do, and I'm going to walk away. So, Big Ten champion, Thomas, who do you have?
Yeah, I'll have to stick to I'm a huge Fernando Mendoza fan. Loved Kurt Signetti too during his time at James Madison before he went to Indiana. Julian Sain, Ryan Day, and those guys, they've done a fantastic job with the Buckeyes, but I'm going to go with Indiana.
Okay, so you got Indiana here, and Indiana, as they move forward, this would mean that we would have a new number 1 overall, and then we'll go to our Big 12 game that's going to see the two teams that already played each other, and they've already made the decision, and it was pretty convincing. So the question becomes, do we see a resurgent BYU, or does Texas Tech handle business for the second time this year?
Yeah, I watched that first Texas Tech BYU game because I was expecting BYU to be a lot better than how they performed there. That was a pretty poor showing on their end. While I think it'll be better than what they did during the regular season, I don't know how I can go against Texas Tech with how they performed, and they've been pretty consistent this year.
So you got Texas Tech, and then we go to, and this is important to keep in mind, folks, because they both have teams ranked in the top 25. So we have the American, your champion between Tulane and North Texas. And then we have the Sun Belt. And if you believe James Madison is going to take home the pie here. So give me your American champion and your Sun Belt champion.
Yeah, for the American, I'm going to go with Tulane. Eric Morris has not won a game against Jon Sumrall during his time at North Texas. North Texas is 0-3 historically against Tulane. Sumrall, whenever where he's been at, Troy before coming to Tulane, and now I think he's gonna win it. We'll win it again. I think I'm a huge fan of Sumrall as a coach, and I think his team is just going to be more prepared. Though I am interested in seeing how they try to limit that offense.
And then we go to the Sun Belt. James Madison has not beaten a ranked team, and they played a team that was ranked but is no longer ranked in Louisville. They lost to them by double digits. They have no ranked wins, yet some think they're above the American, where Navy, Tulane, South Florida, and North Texas all have ranked wins. James Madison takes on Troy. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go James Madison there. They've been one of the better defensive teams, at least statistically in the country. Strength of schedule's not great. I think that speaks to more about what the Sun Belt has to do going forward, especially scheduling out of conference games. Troy, not a bad team, but I'm a huge fan of Bob Chesney. When Kurt Signetti left to go to Indiana, Chesney brought in a lot of guys. He had to bring in about 50 new people, 54, I think it was, new players. Did a great job at Holy Cross as well. And I think that I really think that Chesney is going to end up being victorious with his Dukes before he takes out the UCLA job.
So here's the question. The top 5 conference champions get automatic bids, the top 5 highest ranked conference champions. So this is a big question of where you rank the Sun Belt, the American, and the ACC. So give me your 5 automatic bids that get into this thing for your college football playoff scenario that we have here as we're playing these scenarios as we get closer and closer. Give me your 5 auto bids of your highest ranked conference champions.
Yeah, so it'll be the SEC Alabama would be the one of the first bid. Big Ten into Indiana. Big 12 would be Texas Tech. Then I'd have to go Virginia with the ACC, and then 5th would be the American in Tulane. Caveat of that is if Duke did win, I would have James Madison above them, okay. But that's because I don't think Duke should be there to begin with. No offense to the program.
Yeah. So and based on their tiebreakers, it also doesn't make sense. So here's the 5 that we have, and I agree with you. If Duke were to win the ACC would not get one of the 5 automatic bids, in my opinion, because Tulane, North Texas, and James Madison are all ranked higher, with Duke not being a top 25 team. And I don't think there's any way that they get in there with 5 losses. So we would actually see, if Duke were to win the ACC, Tulane, North Texas doesn't matter. And then as long as James Madison wins the Sun Belt, we would see the SEC, the ACC, the SEC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the American, and the Sun Belt get the 5 automatic bids, leaving out the ACC and getting 2 conferences automatic bids for the first time ever in the college football playoff, and for the first time ever in general, having 2 teams from conferences that are not in the autonomy group of the SEC, ACC, Big 10, and Big 12. This is what some would be calling the chaos situation. And I think it's a very real thing, Thomas.
Yeah, chaos makes things fun, especially in the sporting world, because, who doesn't like a little excitement? I'm always a root for the underdog kind of guy. And as much as I do like Manny Diaz, Coach Diaz there at Duke. No offense to him, I like Bob Chesney a good bit more.
Yeah, so in this being your situation, now we have to figure out who the 7 at-large are going to be. So I'm going to write some names in here that I think are the real names in the running. So in the SEC, we have Ole Miss. In the SEC, we have Texas. We have Oklahoma. We have Texas A&M. And we have Georgia. And you can also say that we have Vanderbilt. In the ACC, we have Miami as a potential at-large, as we're talking about the at-large now. In the Big Ten, we have Ohio State. If in your situation Indiana wins the Big Ten championship, we have a 1-loss Ohio State. We also have Oregon. In the Big 12, we would have BYU, who now has 2 losses to Texas Tech. In the American, we would have North Texas in this situation that would only have 2 losses. And we have a straggler out here in their own conference, Notre Dame, by themselves. So you got to give me 7 of the 6 remaining in the SEC, 1 more in the ACC, 2 in the Big Ten, 1 in the Big 12, 1 more in the American. James Madison in this situation, would you consider them at all in Notre Dame? Give me your 7 at large and tell me why.
Ooh, 7 at large. I feel like this is going to be SEC dominated, and probably should be. I would have Georgia, Texas A&M in there as well. I think they've been very strong schools throughout the year. Georgia's been Gunnar Stockton's looked good for Georgia, and I just think that's one of the better teams in the nation. Texas A&M, I know they ended up losing that game to Texas, but one loss. I mean, it's hard. I know they played lower quality SEC opponents by comparison, but still, I think I'd have to have them in there. I feel like I'm missing an SEC team.
You got Ole Miss, Texas, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma to choose from.
I have to put Oklahoma in, I think, too. Oklahoma's been another program. I mean, even when Mateer wasn't in, they didn't look terrible. Mateer had that hand injury, and he wasn't necessarily the same guy. And, man, I'm going to probably get some. I'm throwing in Texas, baby. I'm putting Texas in.
Okay.
I want to see some chaos. I'm a chaos guy. I'm an Arch Manning fan. The A&M win is huge. They've had a lot of big wins this year. I know they're a 3-loss team. I'm sticking with them. So that's 4 SEC schools out of the 7. Oh man, people are gonna.
So that
I'm
means
not beating it. Yeah.
So that means now keep in mind that Ole Miss, we already talked about, could be punished
Ole
for
Miss
not
would be
having their
out.
head coach. And so for not having their head coach and maybe not having some of their players, not having some of their assistants, and Vanderbilt was defeated by Alabama and Texas, so that would make sense keeping them out. Now the question becomes, with the 3 remaining, you have Miami, Ohio State, Oregon, BYU, North Texas, James Madison, and Notre Dame. What say you, my good fellow?
Well, I'll knock the Big 12 out with 2 losses to Texas Tech. In my scenario, BYU would not get in; they would be out. With a 1-loss Ohio State team, I would have to put them in, so that would be 5. The other big team, oh man, is Oregon. So it'd be between the final 2 spots for me would be between Oregon, Miami, and Notre Dame. Oh Lord, that's so brutal. I think I'd put Oregon in. They lost to Indiana, which I think that was an impressive win by Indiana. They've had some very close wins, against USC and a couple of the other Big Ten schools. Probably shouldn't have been as close, but I know there was weather and some injury issues. So, oh man, and the last one between Miami and Notre Dame. This is like the thing that's
This is the easiest one for you to pick.
Yeah.
This is the easiest one. Half of the country will lose their mind because they just like their team, and I don't fault you for your love. It's undying. Be nicer to people, but it's undying. And by the way, if you support Notre Dame, which supports Jesus, I know some of y'all need to go pray because of the way that you've spoken to me. But all right, Miami versus Notre Dame. What do you got for me, my good sir? Because this is the last choice for you to make.
Yeah, it's funny because you and Shane have had this conversation on the League Winners show in college football now, actually. So this was, man, you guys both had great arguments. This is
the
so
easiest
tough.
thing in the world. 10-2 versus 10-2. Who beat who? I have people writing into me saying Miami has worse losses than Notre Dame, and I'm like, so by saying that Notre Dame has better losses, you're raising Miami up. Who beat them? They beat them. Like Texas beat Texas A&M. Miami beat Notre Dame. What are we talking about? But you have a choice to make. Do you piss off the Giants Fighting Irish name for logic and rationale, or do you throw logic to the wind and you're just afraid of the pitchforks that may come from the people that claim to love Jesus so much.
Yeah, as somebody with some Irish blood, they're probably not going to like me too much because when it comes to same records, I personally default to head to head because if you're the same record and one team won, I have to go with the winning team. Uh, that's how it is. They settled on the field. Miami would get the final spot, and Notre Dame would be left out. Though I could see a world where people would want Texas out and Notre Dame in. I could understand that if that was the case, but I would disagree with them.
I would as well. So, with that being said, we have Alabama, Virginia, Indiana, Texas Tech, Tulane, in no specific order, as your 5 automatic bids in this scenario from Thomas Christopher, also known as Thomas Pascariello, but he goes by Thomas Christopher a lot, so that's why I wrote it on here. But the last name ends in a vowel, which you know, Irish people, what that means. And then we look at Texas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Georgia, Miami, Ohio State, and Oregon, leaving out BYU, as well as North Texas, Notre Dame. Oh my goodness, they lost to Northern Iowa last year and they still got in. And James Madison. So with that being said, I am now once again showing the world that it's not just me that's logical and rational. So let's spread the hate a little bit more and let's go to Shane. Shane, here we are, sir. Shane is about to bring us through this and he's going to let us know. We're gonna clear off the sheet here. We're going to start it over here. At the bottom of Sproul Hill. And we're now going to put ourselves in a situation where Shane has the opportunity to let us know what would happen in his scenario. So, Shane, the board is up. Welcome here to your opportunity to piss off some people in America. So, you have the SEC, you have the ACC, you have the Big Ten, the Big 12, the American, the Sun Belt, because those are the ones that we know are going to get a shot at this thing this year, with no offense to the other conferences or that Pac conference where they play each other a lot. And then you have Notre Dame that's hanging out here on their own because everyone has to play in the conference except for them. So as we take a look at this and get your thoughts, I would love for you to tell me in your world, and I saw that you wrote to me while I was talking with Thomas, you were trying to take my eye off the ball, and I know how to multitask, so shame on you for that. But he wrote into me, Thomas, and he said he loves chaos. When we were talking about it, and you said, Thomas, that you love chaos, he stuck out his tongue and let us all know how he feels. So, Shane, the tongue that you stick out to lick any sign that has Golesh on it, as well as the tongue that loves chaos, I would love for you to now bring me into this moment, and I want you to tell me who's going to win the SEC between Alabama and Georgia, and now we're playing Shane's scenario.
Already, Matt.
Give me Georgia.
Okay. ACC.
And then he carried
ACC. Do I screw it, I'm going chaos mode here. Virginia's been a good football team, but I do not feel like they've been extremely consistent all season. And I could be totally off there, but I feel like they have had games that they could have lost. And I know, hypothetical, blah, blah, blah. But Duke's a good football team, I think. Yeah. And they got a good quarterback. I'm going Duke.
You want to hear some weird irony? Tulane and North Texas are playing for the American Championship, and the two quarterbacks in the ACC Championship are from Tulane and Texas last year. So Tulane and Texas are represented in the ACC and in the American, this year, as Chandler Morris of Virginia was North Texas and Darian Mensah of Duke was Tulane, just to let people know that. So you got Duke. In the Big 12, is it Texas Tech one more time, or does BYU find a way to even their series?
No, I'm going Texas Tech here. You guys mentioned Texas Tech and kind of their, I want to say turnaround was the word you used. This year, they paid out the wazoo for a loaded front seven and a good offensive line. That wins you football games. I'm going Texas Tech.
All right. The Big 12, 2 undefeateds. Ohio State has played 1 strong team. Indiana's played 2. Now they get to play each other. And contrary to public belief, one of them has to lose this game. Who wins the Big Ten championship?
Do I want to be a hater here just for the fun of this scenario? Yeah, I think I do. Give me Indiana.
Okay, so going with Indiana. And
to your point, Ohio State's one quality game this year, quality win, is Texas.
Right.
Who the heck else have they played? Michigan. I'll give them Michigan. Michigan's a good football team.
Not a top 15 team, though.
No. Exactly.
Yeah. So, and that's what I keep telling people. You keep crapping on Texas, you're making Ohio State look bad. Well, Texas doesn't deserve to get in, Dan. Well, then what's a win over them deserve? The American, Tulane, or North Texas?
Give me the fighting Jon Sumralls.
Okay, we're going with Tulane and Roll Wave. So Roll Wave wins, Roll Tide doesn't in your scenario. In the Sun Belt, is it James Madison or is it some guy named Troy?
I'll go James Madison.
All right, so James Madison wins. So of your conference champions, who are going to be your 5 automatic bids from highest ranked conference champions in no specific order?
I get 5, correct?
You get 5.
Then it'd be Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, Tulane, and James Madison.
Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, Tulane, and James Madison, which I agree with because Duke is not going to be ranked higher than the American or Sun Belt champions. So now that leaves you in the SEC with Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, as well as leaving you with Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, all of the SEC. And then inside of the ACC, it leaves you merely with Miami. It's a shame that SMU lost, or else we'd be talking probably Miami and SMU. So it leaves you with Miami.
What's Georgia Tech's record? Did they end at 9-3?
Georgia Tech is, I believe they're 9-3. I can tell you right now. So Georgia Tech has ended the regular season at 9-3. Yeah.
Okay.
So then with the Big 12, that leaves BYU as the only other team. It leaves Ohio State in the Big 10 with 1 loss, and Oregon with 1 loss. In the American, it leaves you North Texas. James Madison would be the only representation from the Sun Belt, in my opinion. And it leaves you Notre Dame that floats in a universe all their own. So give me your 7 at large.
Okay. Ohio State is in.
Okay.
Oregon is in.
Okay.
I'm not doing this in any particular order. I'm just thinking through this.
Okay.
Need to go. Rankings will actually do the trick for me. A&M is in.
A&M is in, okay.
So that's 3. I have 4 more.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say Oregon?
You did.
Okay.
You have.
Give me
Go ahead.
Oklahoma is my next team in.
Okay.
And Notre Dame.
And Notre Dame. Okay, so now you have 5. You got to give me 2 amongst Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas, Vanderbilt, Miami, BYU, and North Texas.
Think to make you guys happy.
Oh, just tell the truth.
No, so Alabama at 3 losses in this scenario is out for me.
Okay.
By nature, I'm going to rule Texas out as well, though I think they are a good football team.
Okay.
So that, to me, leaves Miami, Vanderbilt, and BYU. essentially.
And you're going to take Ole Miss out?
And yeah, I'm dropping Ole Miss out.
Okay.
Hold that thought.
Okay. So I'll put Ole Miss back on the map here. So you got Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, Miami, BYU, North Texas. Vanderbilt has lost to Alabama, who you've taken out. They've also lost to Texas, who you've taken out.
Okay, Vanderbilt's out.
Okay.
Too much logic there.
Okay. So you got 2 spots: Ole Miss, Miami, BYU, North Texas.
I think I'm going to go Ole Miss and Miami. Let me look at one thing real quick with BYU.
Okay.
Hands up.
So BYU's only claim to fame this year is they beat Utah.
They beat Utah. That Arizona win looks a little better in my opinion. Not great, but still good.
Yeah. They also rose Arizona and Arizona State back into the rankings late in the season. I think Arizona State is reasonable. I don't really see how Arizona flew back in, but
they didn't even play Arizona State this year.
Yeah. Arizona State, I think, makes Texas Tech look better because I think Texas Tech played them.
I'm going to stick with what I got and leave BYU out, I think.
Okay.
While the Big 12 is no SEC or Big 10, I do think there were a lot of good football teams in that conference this year, and BYU beat all of them except Texas Tech this year, but some of them fell off at different points within the season, so I'm going to stick with what I got.
Okay. Is Miami better than Notre Dame?
Right now, no. We talked about this on college football. Now, right now, no.
Okay. All right. Shane's one of those people trolling me again on the internet. So
I'm not trolling. We talked about it.
I'm just kidding.
With Miami and Notre Dame, it seemed about since the Texas A&M loss for Notre Dame, they've done nothing but rise. And your eye test, they've looked like a good football team and continually, I think, to get better
against worse competition. But go ahead.
Yes, Miami, on the other hand, has fallen off a little bit. And I don't know. There's probably a part of me that's a Carson Beck hater because I know that dude can throw 4 interceptions in a game and not even blink.
All right. Well, you guys have given your theories. Your theories have been well documented on the board. Would you gentlemen like to hear my theory of where I would go?
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go with my theory. And I'm going to go ahead and bring the board back up onto the screen. College football playoff scenarios here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. My SEC champion. Keep in mind, folks, if Alabama were to lose and have 3 losses, they have 3 losses for the second year in a row. Do you leave them out? Now they have better wins this year. And then at the same time, what do you do between them and Texas? Because Texas beat Oklahoma and Oklahoma beat Alabama. So in that scenario, do you put in Texas and leave out Alabama? But Alabama has all of those top 25 wins, but Texas has a win over Texas A&M, which is Texas A&M's only loss. So in a chaos scenario where Alabama loses to Georgia and Georgia evens the score because their only loss this season is to Alabama, you have a 3-loss Alabama, you have a 3-loss Texas, and now you can argue that Texas should be in over Alabama, which could knock Alabama out, put Notre Dame in, and really blow this thing up. By the way, they've been putting Notre Dame above Alabama in the college football playoff rankings, which I believe is one of the side effects of legalizing marijuana in America. So with that being said, let's step into my side of things. So do I want to go chaos theory if I go chaos? You know what? I'm going to have to argue it at some point. So let's go chaos theory. Let's say that Georgia wins. Then in the ACC, let's stick with the chaos. Let's say Duke wins. Then as we go beyond that in the Big Ten, I'm going to pick... It's a tough one. I'm going to pick Indiana. Because I think if it's a shootout, Indiana can outscore Ohio State. Ohio State likes to play those lower scoring games. So then I'm going to, in the Big 12, I'm going to go with Texas Tech. Because I don't see that changing. And then in the American, I can't go against Tulane. I got a lot of respect for both teams that are in this, but I can't go against Tulane. I think if you let my guy Sumrall in, he's going to lock the door on you and he's going to make you pay for it. And I think in the Sun Belt, I'm going with James Madison. So they made it this far. And Bob Chesney might only be there for 2 seasons. So as we take a look at my scenario, Georgia is going to be one of my automatics. Indiana is going to be one of my automatics in no specific order. Texas Tech, Tulane, James Madison. No to Duke, because they have 5 losses. And there's no way in hell they're going to be ranked higher than teams that have been in the top 25 when they haven't been there. So that leaves me with Alabama in the SEC with 3 losses. It leaves me Texas with 3 losses. It leaves me Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, as well as Texas A&M and Ole Miss. And then inside of the ACC, I have Miami. That's ranked in the top 15. I have Oregon in the Big 10. And I have Ohio State. They would have 1 loss in my scenario. BYU in the Big 12, as we mentioned. North Texas. And then I have Notre Dame out here by themselves. So I'm taking out Ole Miss because of the conversation we've already had. You don't have your coach. You don't have some of the assistants. You may lose the players. You may have guys checked out that are there. I think Lane not being at Ole Miss did a massive disservice to Ole Miss, to the SEC, and to the entire college football playoff. Then I'm going to take out Vanderbilt because you lost to Texas and you lost to Alabama, and I think they have better wins than you. I'm going to put in Oklahoma because you got 2 losses and you beat Alabama. I'm going to put in Miami because you beat Notre Dame. And where they're ranked right now with only 2 losses, I think they make sense. I'm going to put in Ohio State because they're only losses in the championship game. I'm not considering BYU. I'm not considering North Texas. So that means I am now in a scenario where I've chosen 3 of my 7. I have to choose 4 more amongst Alabama, Texas, Texas A&M, Oregon, and Notre Dame. And folks, I'm ready to party. So with that being said, as I take a look at this, I'm going to take Oregon. I don't like their schedule. They have 1 loss. They beat the teams in front of them. Again, I don't think USC is as high ranked as some people have them. And I think really their win is Iowa. Then I look at the 4 I have left. Texas beat Oklahoma. They got blown out by Georgia. They beat Vanderbilt. They beat Texas A&M head-to-head. But they also lost to Florida. Alabama, well, they beat Georgia. How can I leave Alabama out when they split with the team that won the SEC? So this is a really tough decision for me to make. Because if it came down to it, I'm looking at Alabama's wins and Texas's wins and the fact that they challenge themselves as opposed to some conferences that don't. And then I look at Texas A&M and Notre Dame. And here's my choice. It's between these 2. It's between, do I take a Texas A&M team that has 1 loss to Texas And I agree with Sarkisian. He said, you know what? If you don't let us in, it's a disservice to college football. By the way, why don't we just play a cupcake? Why do we go play Ohio State? By the way, we outgained them in yards in the game that we lost by 1 score. And if you're giving Notre Dame credit for close games, we had a close game with the reigning national champion. We didn't have to play Ohio State in the first week of the season. Remember how you said that it doesn't matter what happens in the first couple weeks of the season? You can't fault us because we're getting to know each other? Remember you said that about Notre Dame? Well, why aren't you saying it about us? We got better wins than Notre Dame, and if we're not supposed to be faulted for how we start and it's how we finish, well, look at how we finished if you're going to look at Notre Dame for that. That's why I'm giving Texas credit. But let's look at Texas A&M. They're 11-1. They beat UTSA, unranked. They beat Utah State, unranked. They beat Auburn, sorry, Shane, unranked. They beat Mississippi State, unranked. They beat Florida, unranked. So they got a common opponent there with Texas, but Texas beat them. They beat Arkansas, LSU, Missouri, South Carolina, Samford. And oh yeah, they beat Notre Dame. So put Texas A&M in because head-to-head matters. Notre Dame's out. That's my thought. Gentlemen, Thomas, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I'm with some chaos. Yeah. Yeah, I think we had almost everything really the same there except for James Madison getting in over Virginia, but I think that could be a whole bag of worms. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Shane?
She would yell at racist.
I'm going to go even more chaos with you.
Okay.
You almost convinced me to leave A&M out.
I was there.
You almost convinced me to leave A&M out.
I was there. And
Their best win's Notre Dame.
Right. And that one point, that head-to-head come and bite you in the butt because you got Texas A&M and you got Miami and you got Notre Dame and you got 2-loss Notre Dame, 1-loss Texas A&M, 2-loss Miami. You put them all together, and this is an easy decision for the committee because 2 of them beat the other one. But I promise you, Shane, that I'm happy that. See, that makes me feel like I made a good case there because I was on the precipice of saying goodbye to Texas A&M. But they beat Notre Dame. And I think having a 3-loss Alabama and a 3-loss Texas is more dangerous than because of what they've done, who they've played, how they've played. And I think we saw last year with letting Indiana in over Army, who had a fantastic season, and Alabama, who had 3 losses, that was a wasted game. So where are we right now? This is a really tough decision to make, but see, what makes it easy is when somebody loses head-to-head. And I think the real conversation that should be made is Ole Miss Notre Dame or Oregon Notre Dame. Those are the better conversations to have for Notre Dame.
So that's the other one I'm looking at right now is Oregon.
Because Oregon has if Oregon was in the American with that schedule, nobody would be talking. They'd be treating them like North Texas. And so when you look at this, you have to understand something. Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State all got to play against really crappy teams this year. Where the SEC is going to get... Why would you punish the SEC for beating the crap out of each other in a good conference and then promote a bunch of schools that play weak non-conference schedules and then sleep through half of their conference schedule? I credit Michigan and Ohio State for playing a tougher schedule, but Oregon did not.
Ohio State benched two of their best wide receivers the game before Michigan for load management and for health. And it was a conference game. You're really I'm really thinking about
take it out
Oregon out. Yep. Because if you look at their best win at the time was Penn State in 2 overtimes. We saw what happened to Penn State. Then they follow up and lose to Indiana by 10. Beat the crap out of Rutgers, who I'm pretty sure is who Ohio State benched 2 of their wide receivers for. Beat the crap out of Wisconsin. The 3 of us probably could have scored more than Wisconsin this year.
Talking about the bottom feeders. You're talking about the bottom. That's why Michigan beat Purdue by 6, and they beat Northwestern by 2, and they put them in the top 15 just to make Ohio State look good.
But then you went through, and I mean, you said it, Auburn, LSU, they were down 30 to South Carolina. Oh, I'm almost tempted. If it weren't for that damn head-to-head.
Watch this. Oregon, Notre Dame. Watch this, folks. This is how I redeem myself with all those people that love Notre Dame. I say to Oregon, you didn't play in the championship game. It's not my fault that you didn't play there. It's not my fault that your best win ended up being against Smoke and Mirrors Penn State. It's not my fault that you didn't play a tougher schedule. Notre Dame does look better than you, Oregon. Notre Dame, in their 2 losses, looks a hell of a lot better than your 1 loss. And Oregon, common opponents, okay, USC, Notre Dame beat them, you beat them. But at the end of the day, who played a tougher schedule? Now, if Notre Dame beats Texas A&M or Miami, we're talking about nothing. But I feel like people should stop fighting about Miami and Notre Dame, and they should start fighting about Ole Miss Notre Dame and Oregon Notre Dame. So Notre Dame fans, you want me to tell you how you get in? They punish Ole Miss for not having the lane train, and they punish Oregon for playing a weak schedule. That's how you get in.
Yeah, no, I'm fully on board with that.
Look what we did. Why are we not? Listen, this is like this is a quarter of the college football playoff committee right here. If there's 12 sitting, there's 3 right here that just spit logic at you. We didn't talk about the eye test. We didn't talk about ticket sales and merchandising. We just spoke about football. And when you break it down, like I said, I brought you to the brink of saying goodbye Texas A&M and pushing the Aggies off the cliff. But the only thing that keeps me from doing that is what you said, Shane, that dang head-to-head. You cannot punish a team for beating you at any point during the season. And all I keep hearing about Notre Dame, people don't even hide it anymore. There's broadcasters that have gone out and said, well, we know Notre Dame has a bigger leeway. We know that they have like more kind of like if they lose, there's excuses made for them. I mean, they've come out and said it, and they haven't given, like, they just say it. They just state it out loud. Notre Dame is going to get preferential treatment because they're Notre Dame. Where I say to Notre Dame, if you're going to schedule Miami and Texas A&M, beat them. Scheduling USC has meant nothing in the last decade. Scheduling the military institutions, you know you can beat them. Scheduling Stanford has been a non-factor. So this schedule that you have every single year where you give like half of your season is BS, why am I supposed to give you credit for getting those 6 wins? Now, if you beat Notre Dame, or if you beat Miami, if you beat Texas A&M, if you beat a good team in the ACC that you play with them so much, now we're having a conversation. But see, what Notre Dame didn't do was beat the teams that you need to beat in order to be a part of the conversation at the end here. They have to hope that Ole Miss and Oregon are not looked at as kindly as them. That's their path.
And the proof of that was the meanest herdman of all was Gladys, the youngest.
Final thought, Shane?
They were headed straight for hell by way of the state penitentiary.
You did a good job convincing me about the lack of strength of schedule for Oregon and Texas A&M, to be honest.
When you listed that,
yeah,
for Texas A&M, that really, as an SEC guy, like, you made me realize, oh, they're 11-1, but they didn't play.
They're like in Indiana, 11-1 last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Them and Ole Miss, they didn't play tough schedules. And Missouri, I don't know why they were in the top 25 pretty much the whole year. Because if you beat them, you got a top 25 win. But I don't regard a win over Missouri as a good win. They didn't beat anybody. I looked at them like I looked at Michigan. So, yeah, holding up the Auburn. So final notes here. Thomas, you get a final say in this. What do you want to say to the college football fans in your final note of this edition of Wake Up Call inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios?
It's a lot more well, some of those final spots, man, are pretty complicated. I'd be interested to see a 16 team, maybe, probably maximum that I would go going forward. But then I would be interested to see how they work out certain tiebreakers. I think certain conferences also need to change their tiebreaker system to make it make a little bit more sense. Because some of it, like the ACC and even some aspects of the American, not a huge fan of. But I mean, if they want it all to be legitimate, I guess they have to go that route. So I guess that's my message.
Shane, your final message. You can either choose to talk about college football or choose to declare your undying love for Alex Golesh. Make your choice wisely.
I'm going to go neither. My final message to college football in general is find a dang commissioner, whether it be Josh Pate or Nick Saban, and fix the dang calendar so this makes a lot more sense, and it's better for the players, it's better for the coaches, and we all get to watch the game that we love, and then we get to deal with the coaching carousel and the recruiting like we should.
I don't disagree with you there. I think Nick Saban has a bright future doing something with the grand scheme of things. Don't count him out when it comes to leadership. For Thomas and Shane and the league winners, Thomas, let everybody know how they can connect with the league winners that you're both a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find us on Twitter. It's at League Winners CF for college football. You can find it on Instagram as well, where we do a lot of photography and videography and stuff of that nature for the college football content we do. That is at the League Winners. Sounds how it spells. It's spelt how it sounds, rather. You can find me on Twitter at Tommy CFB. Cover national college football outlet, and we're only continuing to grow. And I'm very appreciative for having people like Shane and obviously like you, Dan, too, in my corner, to just great people to talk football with. And I think that's important in the industry.
No, I appreciate it. And I value you both because we all know the media is not like this screen in a lot of ways. If you're looking for Shane, you can find him at Who Loves Alex Golesh on all social media. And I had to. And I appreciate you both. And, of course, a happy and merry early Christmas and a happy holidays. And I look forward to talking with you guys soon. I want to thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and Wake Up Call every Monday through Friday in general from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on youtube.com, facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe, you'll find us on all of these channels. You'll also find us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. A big time thanks to our incredible partners in Central and Upstate New York, Great Lakes Honda City, our exclusive studio partner, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Myers Creek, with locations on the countryside in Cazenovia and in the Syracuse Inner Harbor in the city of Syracuse. Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, Mother's Cupboard, the exclusive home of my breakfast sandwich in Syracuse, the Cuse Mac Mother, bacon, egg, and cheese inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Cut it up and have it with some syrup. Pick it up and eat it like a sandwich. 7 days a week on 3709 James Street in Syracuse from 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Chick-fil-A DeWitt, Game Point Sports Complex, Pizza Man, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Brian's Landing, Avicoli's, and we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Onondaga Community College Lasers, Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse Bobcats, and Binghamton University Bearcats. You can find the Lasers every other Wednesday bi-monthly at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Wake Up Call. And we're talking with student athletes, coaches, and administration. You can find all of our content by going to youtube.com/WakeUpCallDT. For the Bobcats, you can, of course, be with us every single month for the Bobcat Buzz with student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni. and also all of our content on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. And Binghamton is with us every Tuesday during Bearcat time, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And you can find all of our content with Binghamton by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. While you're there, click subscribe, hit the notification bell. You'll find our OCC playlist, our BSC Syracuse playlist, and our Binghamton playlist. Each of these wonderful schools are on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information on your lasers, go to onondaga.lasers.com. For your Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. And for your Bearcats, go to binghamtonbearcats.com. From the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, as always, God bless, no stress, do your best, stay safe, and remember, you matter. We'll talk with you soon.